I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, August the 3rd, where, bad as we hate to say it, we got continued loss of leverage in your fat cattle sales, negotiated anyway, and a lot of you probably saw it. It was announced in the news, Ag News earlier this week that that Bartlett Cattle Company sold off their cattle feeding portion of their business to Green Plains. Green Plains, an ethanol-based company there that they bought most of Caprock's northern yards there several months ago, and now they bought Bartlett's southern yards, one there in Tulia, Texas, another one up there in Kansas. But Green Plains is aligned with a major packer there, and Bartlett was a really great company. Started out Bartlett Grain, and then but they had their cattle division. Actually interviewed for a job with them out of college, and just a first-class company, and one of the few corporate feeders that kind of did things in an independent way, and I graded a lot of delivery cattle for them back when I was with USDA. They ran a tight ship, did it the best way possible. A lot of good people working for them. Especially Jim Lovell and Lyndon McClintock that kind of handled the cattle end of it there, and wish those guys the best as they move on and continue in the cattle business and working for somebody else. But we've got continued loss of leverage in your negotiated cattle trade as more and more and more, and a continued higher percentage of the cattle that are on feed are not really for sale out on the open market, and we've already got the tail wagging the dog in a bad way, and that's going to continue. But especially in the southern plains, we're down to about 7% of the cattle in the Texas Panhandle sell on a negotiated basis, and now it's going to be less as we move forward. But it doesn't make a lot of sense that 5 to 7% of the price on the cattle dictates what the other 93% of them bring. But that's the way it's going to go, and it's really frustrating in the industry, and everybody sees it. Everybody from the pinned riders down to the newest guy on the processing crews just shaking their head, thinking, what in the heck's becoming of this industry? And it used to be a lot more fun than it is now, and we might as well just be feeding hogs or doing something like that. But let's look at the board on Thursday. October live cattle futures down 32 cents on Thursday to end the day at 109.95. August live cattle down just 2 cents, the spot market there ending at 108.60, and we haven't seen the bulk of our fat cattle trade yet this week, but it's not going to be far from that. Probably still a little bit of basis there. But October feeder cattle down 62 cents, and we've had a big sell-off on your feeder cattle futures this week, basically with your futures just trying to get lined up with what your index levels are at. I know we're selling cattle on some of the videos for out front for fall, big strings of cattle higher than what our index levels are for our cash market and our auctions and our current delivery stuff. But we were just the cash market was just running a little bit behind what the board was, and it had to get tightened up, especially on your August, and it was down 62 cents also at 150.120. But it seemed easier for the industry just to pull the board down just a little bit on your feeder cattle than to raise the cash market. But let's look at your fat cattle trade, or the lack of fat cattle trade this week so far. Through Wednesday, we had seen some trade around 9,300 head from mostly 110 to 110.25 there on your fed cattle exchange, and then your dress trade from 174 up to 176. But your weighted average so far on just that light amount of trade dress is 175.53. So actually your dress trade lost quite a bit of ground last week, so it shouldn't lose that much this week as we're getting into trade. But we saw a little bit more trade on Thursday that wasn't included in that 9,300 head in the 5 area feeding region, which is nothing, but a little bit more trade in your northern area from 109 to 110 and 175.5. But all your trade has just been mostly in Iowa, but in the northern regions, they didn't quite get cleaned up on last week's light volume there, as we didn't see hardly any dress trade at all. We just saw that 112 live, which was the bulk of the sales. So most of your guys that sold dressed didn't get to sell last week, or didn't have any sales. And then we're still waiting on what the market's going to be this week. We haven't seen anything break loose, not the swinging gate kind of trade that we like to see. It's been Friday the last 2 weeks. It's going to be Friday again this week. I did hear some rumors of some 111 bids, and that really kind of surprised me, because I figured a 111 bid would probably trade a lot of cattle, but not surely confirmed on that. But sometime here Friday we'll find out whether it's going to be 110, 111, or possibly 112, which would be a major victory to keep the market steady, kind of the way that things have been going. Look at your box beef cutouts on Thursday. We're still seeing some firm ground here and kind of trading sideways, with choice cuts on Thursday afternoon 203.80 up a nickel. Your select cuts 197.10 down 48 cents. But one thing that's positive is your loins are selling steady to firm, and then that's by far the most expensive cuts on there. And if we can get a little more interest in those as we get later in the summer, it starts to cool down a little bit, or it will. They're buying for temperatures that are going to cool down, and people will get back out in the backyard and start grilling their steaks again. And we're getting ready for Labor Day, and that's a big grilling holiday there. But slaughter so far this week has been very good. 472,000 through Thursday. That's 1,000 more than last week and 10,000 more than the same week a year ago. That's a good click, but why wouldn't the Packers do that? You know, they've got their margins back up there pretty good, and some say making as much as $200 a head, which is a heck of a lot more than these guys are making feeding those cattle. But your actual slaughter information for the week ending July the 21st come out here this Thursday, and showed that your dressed steer weights were up 5 pounds at 872 pounds. So that doesn't help things a whole lot. But didn't have a feeder flash for Thursday there, but traveling, did a speaking engagement to Berger Ingelheim Midwestern Beef Meeting in Osceola, Iowa. Tell you what, you get up here in northern Missouri, northern Kansas, southern Iowa, all through here, there's a strip here that is horrible dry. You know, there's guys up here that's chopped corn and done a test on it, testing 1 bushel to the acre. That these guys are having trouble keeping their cow herds. I've actually helped a few guys that were in the lending institution find a home for some outfits that wanted to just keep their cow herd together, whatever it took, and these outfits are giving up at least 50% of their calf crop to find a place, mostly in Kentucky and places that have had plenty of moisture, to hold those cows till through the winter into next spring. Hopefully they'll get some moisture levels back up and get their water back up, because they're completely out of pond water, extremely low on hay, and the pastures are just completely burnt up. But it's tough. Talked to some friends of mine, St. Joe Stockyards. They're selling a lot of guys' cows off, at least portions of their herd, bringing in pairs. The cows are in such bad shape. They've got really light calves on them. They're splitting the pairs because there's no demand for pairs right now, because in the general area, and about as far as you want to drive, it's just dry. And a lot of those light calves are bringing more dollars per head than what those thin cows are bringing in. It's really, really tough. But probably the best story I heard about telling you how dry it is up in this part of the country is it's a church picnic time of the year up here, and they have a lot of potluck dinners and raffling and fundraisers and auctions and things to put some money in these church coffers, and a lot of them, the most popular thing they've got is they're raffling off you know, 10 or 20 round bales of hay. And you've got a lot of cattle producers coming in there and buying up those raffle tickets, because this hay is just getting out of sight. Just fescue bales of hay which normally in a normal year you can buy as many of them as you want for 25 or 30 bucks a bale, and now you've got guys asking over $100 for them, and then that's just really ticking guys off and you know, saying that these guys are gouging, which they really are, and you know, saying, well, you know, in a normal year I'll never buy another bale of hay off of them if they're going to gouge me like that. But there's a few guys out there that's got some hay or bringing some hay in and selling them for, you know, $60 a bale, and that's kind of fair, and guys are getting along like that. But it's really tough sledding in North Missouri, northern Kansas, southern Iowa, all in that part of the country, which is normally a really high producing area for crops and livestock. But let's look at your feeder cattle markets on Thursday. Real-time index on Beef Market Central late in the day on Thursday at 148.62. That was down 12 cents from Wednesday sales. That's real tight in there with what your CME index come out on Wednesday for. It was 149.13, and it'll likely be down a little bit and be right there tight with what your real-time index is, and that's, you know, a couple $3 under what your spot feeder cattle board is, and that's just kind of where we're running. But if you see a big string of cattle or some cattle on a video sale, you know, one iron deal or really green yearlings, they'll bring more than that. And they'll bring more than that in the sales. But this time of the year, late in the summer right here, unless you see a special at an auction, you're just not going to see on a regular sale any really attractive cattle that the buyers scoot up to the edge of their seat on and push their orders. But we're seeing, you know, some sales. I'm going to give you several quotes here. OKC West on Wednesday at 8,800 head there. Feeder steers were steady to firm. Feeder heifers $2 to $4 higher. Their calves on Tuesday were mostly steady. Pratt, Kansas had a good sale on Thursday, 2,500 head there. Feeder steers over 800 pounds were steady to firm. The feeder heifers mostly $5 to $7 higher. The big heifers over 800 pounds were $1 higher. Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas didn't have their regular Wednesday sale, but they're having a big special on Saturday, the King of the Ring sale, and you might want to find out what's going on there and put your orders in for that sale at Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas. Another big sale that's going to happen on Friday here is Dunlap, Iowa is having their 68th annual barbecue sale. They're going to have a lot of good yearlings on that sale. So check out Dunlap, Iowa, Dunlap Livestock Auction there in the Shaven family. They're going to put a show on for you on Friday. Look at Salina, Kansas, Farmers and Ranchers Livestock on Friday or on Thursday. They had a good sale, 2,600 head there, and the regular market report wasn't available. You look here on Cattle Market Central at the steers, you see that those steers, the good tested weights under 800 pounds were $2 to $3 lower, but your 8-weight steers, the biggest tested lot they had there, was $2 to $3 higher. And looking at 8-weight category, you see 489 head of steers averaged 857 at 151.34, and that sure be a couple bucks or more higher than what your index levels are setting at. And that's kind of a good test right there at Salina, right on I-70. To me, the split between your northern plains and your farmer feeder interests and your southern plains and your mostly commercial feedlots. But individual quote out of Pratt, Kansas on Thursday, 59 head of 807 pound steers bring 154.10. That's your feeder fast for Friday.